I've always been able to remember tomorrow, not in some vague deja vu kind of way. No, I mean with absolute clarity. Every detail, every conversation, every shadow on the wall. But here's the thing, it never happens until after the day is over. That's how this story begins. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that for as long as I can recall, my memory works backward. At first, it was harmless, a fleeting sense of knowing what someone would say before they said it or anticipating a song that came on shuffle. It felt like intuition, nothing more, until the day I woke up and remembered something I hadn't lived yet. It started with a phone call, or rather, the memory of a phone call. I could see myself sitting at the kitchen table, sunlight streaming through the window, holding my phone to my ear. A woman's voice, soft but urgent, was saying, "You need to come now. He's waiting." Her tone sent chills down my spine, even though I didn't know who he was. And then, silence. Complete silence. When I tried to picture anything beyond that moment, my mind went blank, like a door slamming shut. The problem wasn't just that I had no idea what she meant. The problem was that when I checked my calendar, there were no appointments scheduled, no plans made, nothing to explain why I'd be receiving such a call. That's when the unease began creeping in. Because if I hadn't experienced it yet, how did I know it would happen? Was it inevitable? Could I change it? For days, I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was one of those weird glitches your brain sometimes throws at you. But deep down, I knew better. Deep down, I understood that this wasn't random. This was different. And then it happened. The phone rang exactly when I remembered it would, at 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I froze, staring at the screen as an unknown number flashed across it. My heart pounded, so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. For a split second, I considered ignoring it. But curiosity, or maybe fear, got the better of me. I answered, "Hello." My voice trembled. "You need to come now," the same woman whispered. "He's waiting." My knees buckled. She sounded exactly as I'd remembered her. Word for word, tone for tone. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out. "Where am I supposed to go?" There was a pause, heavy and suffocating. Then, "You'll know when you get there." Before I could ask anything else, the line went dead. The room spun around me, and I dropped the phone onto the table. I wanted to believe it was a prank, a coincidence, anything rational. But I couldn't deny what I already knew. I'd seen this moment before. I'd lived it in reverse. So, against every instinct screaming at me to stay put, I got dressed and left the house. I figured if I followed the script, maybe I'd find answers. Maybe I'd learn why this was happening to me. The drive took me to an old neighborhood on the outskirts of town, a place I hadn't visited in years. The streets were lined with crumbling brick buildings and overgrown trees, their branches clawing at the sky like skeletal hands. As I turned onto a narrow road, I spotted a small, dilapidated house at the end of the block. Its windows were boarded up, its paint peeling away in strips. Something about it felt familiar. When I stepped out of the car, the air seemed heavier, charged with electricity. The front gate creaked as I pushed it open, and each step toward the porch echoed unnaturally loud in the stillness. There was no sign of life, not even birds chirping, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Then I saw it. Scratched into the wooden doorframe was a single word: remember. A chill raced down my spine. How could I not? Remembering was all I ever did. But as I reached for the doorknob, another memory surfaced, one I hadn't anticipated. I saw myself standing inside the house, surrounded by shadows. In my hand, I held a photograph of a boy, no older than 10, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes wide with terror. Behind him stood a man, a tall, thin figure partially obscured by darkness. His presence loomed large, oppressive, suffocating. But there was something else, something I couldn't quite make out, something written on the back of the photo. My hand hesitated on the doorknob. Whatever waited for me inside that house, I knew it wasn't going to let me leave unchanged. Yet I couldn't turn back. Not now. Not when the pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fall into place. As the door creaked open, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. A flicker, a shadow, or maybe a reflection. Before I could process it, the scent hit me. Musty, metallic, and unmistakably wrong. It smelled like decay. And then I heard his voice. "Welcome home." The voice was low, guttural, almost too distorted to be human. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once, bouncing off the walls of the decrepit house like an echo trapped in time. My breath hitched as I took a cautious step forward, my eyes straining to adjust to the dim light filtering through cracks in the boarded-up windows. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to sound brave. No answer, just that same oppressive silence, broken only by the faint creak of floorboards beneath my weight. The air inside felt thick, suffocating, as if the house itself were alive and breathing down my neck. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to turn around and run, but something rooted me to the spot. That photograph, the boy, the man, whatever waited for me here held the key to understanding why I remember tomorrow. I moved deeper into the house, guided by some unseen force pulling me toward the center of the chaos. The furniture was covered in dusty sheets, ghostly shapes looming like specters frozen in time. A grandfather clock ticked ominously in the corner, its pendulum swinging with maddening precision. Tick-tock, tick-tock, each second stretched longer than the last, as though time itself had slowed to a crawl. And then I saw it. Lying face down on a rickety wooden table was the photograph from my memory. My pulse quickened as I approached, every fiber of my being screaming that this was wrong, that I shouldn't touch it. But I couldn't stop myself. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the cracked glass frame before lifting it up. The boy stared back at me, his hollow eyes filled with despair. He looked familiar, though I couldn't place him. Behind him stood the shadowy figure, partially concealed by darkness, but unmistakably malevolent. The caption written on the back of the photo sent ice coursing through my veins. "Forgive me." My hands shook violently as I flipped the photo over again, staring at the boy's face. Why did he look so familiar? And who was asking for forgiveness? Before I could process the implications, the room shifted. Not physically. No. Everything remained exactly where it was, but the atmosphere changed. The shadows seemed to grow darker, more defined, creeping along the walls like tendrils reaching for me. The ticking of the clock grew louder, faster, until it drowned out all other sound. "You're late," the voice said again, closer this time, closer than it should have been. I spun around, clutching the photo tightly to my chest. There, standing in the doorway, was the man from the picture. Only now he wasn't shrouded in shadow. His face was gaunt, his skin stretched taut over sharp cheekbones. His eyes, black voids devoid of any humanity, bore into mine with an intensity that made my stomach churn. "Do you remember me?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but laced with an undercurrent of menace. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. My mind raced, sifting through fragments of memories both real and imagined. Then it hit me, a flash of recognition, so visceral it nearly knocked me off my feet. "Yumi," I whispered, my voice barely audible. A slow, chilling smile spread across his face. "Not quite," he replied, "but close enough." The realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just some random stranger haunting this house. This was me, a version of me I hadn't met yet. A future self warped beyond recognition, consumed by whatever dark forces had driven him to this point. The pieces began falling into place. The backward memories, the cryptic warnings, the photograph. All of it led back to this moment. But why? I stammered, backing away as he took a step closer. "Why am I remembering tomorrow? What do you want from me?" His expression softened, though his eyes remained cold and calculating. "You've always known," he said simply. "Deep down, you've always known." Suddenly, flashes of memories flooded my mind. Not just glimpses of the future, but moments from my past. Fragments of arguments I'd forgotten, decisions I'd regretted, choices I'd ignored. Each one connected to another, forming a web of cause and effect that led inexorably to this moment. To him. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I pleaded, tears streaming down my face. "I didn't know." "That's the problem," he interrupted, his voice rising with each word. "You never know. You never see what your actions will lead to until it's too late. Until you've already destroyed everything." He lunged forward, grabbing me by the shoulders with a grip like iron. His black eyes bore into mine, and for a split second, I saw it. The truth buried beneath the madness. The truth about who we were, about what I would become. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was sitting at the kitchen table, sunlight streaming through the window. My phone buzzed beside me, lighting up the screen with an incoming call. An unknown number flashed across it. For a moment, I hesitated. Should I answer? Could I change what was coming? Or was this cycle unbreakable? As I reached for the phone, a single thought echoed in my mind, repeating itself like a mantra. What happens when tomorrow remembers you first?